Thanks very much, Ben. Well, welcome to Show Me the Money. I am going to introduce us a little bit more because I think you ought to know who we are as we're going to be giving our views on a bit of the world of sports sponsorship, football sponsorship in specifically. I'm Michael Flynn, and as I've just been introduced, I am the CEO of DataPOWA, which measures the impact and actual value rather than the media value of teams, leagues and event sponsorships using data science and artificial intelligence. I started off in sponsorship in Formula One, and I went on to head up Carling's sponsorship of the Premier League, before later starting and then selling Fast Web Media, where we provided digital marketing for clients including the Premier League, UEFA, Castrol, BBC and Man United. We have got a great panel lineup today. From the sunny shores of Miami, we have Heidi Pellerano, who heads up the commercial division of Concacaf and is responsible for developing and managing strategic partnerships to maximize the business opportunities of her organization. She has direct oversight of the Department of Business Development, Partnership Marketing, Digital and Emerging Technologies, Media Distribution and Broadcast Productions. I'm surprised you have any time for yourself after that, Heidi. Prior to Concacaf, Heidi was also Executive Vice President at Wasserman. We've also got Simon Oliviera, Managing Director of Kane Partners, one of the leading independent sports and entertainment management companies globally. He's been at the forefront of many high-profile athlete and brand partnerships in the sport and entertainment industries over the past 2 decades. And Simon's worked alongside some of the biggest icons in modern times, including David Beckham, Usain Bolt, and Neymar. And he also manages more than 40 talented young footballers across Europe. And under his direction, Kane Partners now are building a commercial property portfolio which represents the likes of the Inter Miami and the Lawn Tennis Association. Charlie Kane heads up CK66 and manages all commercial affairs relating to England's and Tottenham's football captain, Harry Kane, who's also, may I add, ranked #1 as the most commercially influential English footballer in the Power Index. I hope he's aware of that, Charlie, by the way. And of course, we've got Danny Macklin, last but not least, CEO of Leyton Orient, who's committed to delivering the owner's vision of building a sustainable and successful football club that prides itself on its heritage and thinks outside the box in creating new revenue streams and fan engagement. And most importantly, is one of the key architects in a unique sponsorship we'll be talking about. Before we do kick off properly with the first question, we've only got 30 minutes, as you know. We may not have time to answer any questions left, but please leave them on the chat line, and we're happy to answer them after. So, to business. First question, I guess we will try to answer the one that was within the conference program itself, and that is, the expectations of sponsors and rights holders are often misaligned. And this dynamic has been under the microscope, particularly now with the at-game benefits not being available due to COVID. What needs to change to ensure that sponsorships make sense for both sides? If I can go over to Miami and ask Heidi first.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon or evening for some of you. It's such a great pleasure to be with you today. And like Michael said, we'll try to keep this condensed to 30 minutes because this is a very interesting topic. I think, Michael, the first thing we need to do is understand the why. Why is that paradigm? And the paradigm is really in the title of our panel. Show me the money. You know, as commercial directors, partners, our job is to maximize revenue. So what ends up happening a lot of times, your strategy can create some challenges for the partners themselves. But I think that has evolved significantly over the last 10, 15 years. And the biggest thing that shifted was mindset. Before, we always talked about sponsorships. And to me, sponsorship implies transaction. A one-way transaction. As we've evolved, I think we started to look at it more as partnerships that involves an exchange, and really taking a look at what that exchange, that both parties have something to offer, both property and the brand has something to offer. And I think that was the biggest thing. And what that means is, for an instance like COVID, for example, at Concacaf, we were talking to our partners the minute the COVID hit. We told them we didn't have answers, unfortunately, but at least we did pick up the phone and started that dialogue to say, you are important to our organization. We're committed to you. So you're going to be some of the first people. And that started with our president, Victor Montagliani, who did the speech yesterday in the morning. And so that's something that carries through with that mindset. The other thing that's very important is to not lose sight of what the brands want, right? Most brands are like snowflakes. They're all very unique. But the reality of it is that they have 3 things in common, most likely. They all want something they can own. They all want a story to tell. and they all want to do it in an authentic, organic way. So that's where if you keep those three principles in mind, you can really work through challenges like COVID. And I'll very quickly talk about one example for us. One of our partners is Modelo, the beer company. Their whole motto is the fighting spirit. So everything we did was really understanding what that fighting spirit meant. We didn't want to understand that we just watched the commercial and we know all the essence of what fighting spirit is. So our entire partnership is customized for them with that mindset. And that allows us to have that flexibility and build that trust back and forth to help us navigate situations like COVID.
Great. Thank you very much for that, Heidi. Simon, can we pass over to yourself now?
Yeah, I think in answer to the question, I wouldn't say that they're deliberately misaligned. I think I think brands have had a head start over rights holders in being able to understand their customers and the behavior of their customers. But I think now rights holders are becoming more sophisticated in not only understanding, I think, their fan base, but also the brand that they are targeting. But I think rights holders have got to make a decision here. Do they want to be the preacher in the pulpit, just sitting there and basically offering their views and directing those views to their flock? Or do they want to be the priest that gets amongst the congregation, getting to know each individual and understanding what their motivations are, what's going on in their lives? So those that spend that time, I think, immersing themselves with their audience will ultimately be the most successful.
No, absolutely. Before we go to you, Charlie, perhaps when you and yourself, Danny, when you answer this, you can perhaps look at the specific scenario behind Harry Kane's sponsorship involvement at Leyton Orient. So over to you, Charlie.
Yeah, now obviously the Leyton Orient sponsorship was brilliant and sort of sums up how sponsorship goes at this moment. It was brought to us by Nigel and Danny and everyone, and we just felt like Harry needed to pay back to the society, to Leyton Orient, the team that gave him his first start. And I think it's actually Danny who came up with the shirt sponsor idea. And it was just fantastic. We could give back to the charities, to all the NHS workers who have helped us over the past 6-7 months or so. And a bit like what Simon said, both rights holders and the sponsor itself got so much out of it instead of just one way. And no, I think Danny will touch on it more, but it's definitely been a fantastic start to an ongoing partnership.
Yeah, so Danny, tell us more then.
Yeah, I think Charlie's hit many nails on the head. It's such a unique sponsorship, and that's not just us saying it. We've had plaudits. We didn't do it to win awards, but we're certainly gonna. We've already got one coming, which I think will be announced in the very near future. But like I said, that's not why we did this. The deal, as many would call it, it's not a deal. It's a partnership. It's a relationship. So to give a bit of background, Harry we gave him his first professional debut back in 2011, obviously on loan from Spurs, and obviously Leyton Orient without that experience, I'm sure wouldn't have been the player that he is today. But all joking apart, we're proud that he started his career, albeit we were a small part of it, but we're proud that we are part of it. So we approached a bizarre idea that I had in my shower one morning, discussed it with my head of commercial Josh and our chairman Nigel Travis, who's based in Boston, and it was a wacky idea. We approached Harry via Charlie, and within minutes, we were all 1,000 ideas bouncing off our head. And as you'll see from the shirt behind me, we've basically got 3 charities: Mind Mental Health, Frontline Heroes, as well as Haven's House, which is a local children's hospice. So that's 3 fantastic causes that are benefiting from the proceeds of the shirt sales. It's helped reduce our loss. As a football club, we're looking at around a 2.5 million loss. And I generally think it's one of the most unique shirt partnerships that's ever existed in sport. We've had people up and down the land. We talked about earlier on when Heidi said morning and afternoon to everyone. Truly, this has gone global, and it's absolutely exceptional. And the shirt sales have been absolutely 4 times what we would have even hoped of, and 5 times higher than any previous year.
It's great to see something that's focused on a local community actually reach every corner of the rest of the world. So congratulations to both of you on the setting up and the continuation of that great sponsorship. Leads us to the next question, and that's all about data. And I'm glad it is, because clearly if data wasn't important in the world of football, I wouldn't be in business today. But how important is the role of data and analytics in today's world of football sponsorship? And if I can go the same route again, Heidi, if I can come to you first.
Yeah, absolutely, Michael. I'm glad that you're employed, and it's hugely important. I think it's something that continues to evolve, and more people are really investing in it. I think Simon touched on this. When you start thinking about from a sponsorship perspective, going to that partnership, the key element that you are offering that brand partner is the fans. So it starts through the entire life cycle. At the beginning, you have to really understand that fan and what you're delivering. And a lot of times in the past, people would rely on ticket data or ratings and things like that. But now as brands become more sophisticated, as was mentioned earlier in the panel, they want to understand how to transact with them, right? So they want to understand, are these fans on Instagram? Are they on TikTok? And then if they are, how are they using it? Are they going to the game with their families, or are they going to the pub with their friends? They want to have all of that type of information. So that's something for us, and it's actually very valuable for the property as well. We just recently conducted a very in-depth segmentation study of our Concacaf fan, because previously when we went to market, we would talk about fans of the sport of football in our region, but the brands were like, but who's the Gold Cup fan? Who's the Champions League fan? So we were able to complete that study very recently, and it was really valuable because it brought some insights that allow us to understand what makes our property unique within the landscape. And then the other piece is why it's so important through the life cycle is what you mentioned is a core to your business, is the ROI. We talked about brands are under a lot of pressure to show the results of the investments, right? These are not small investments. There's always internal fighting, talking about mixed channel modeling and things like that, about where to spend your money. So being able to show the return on that investment and that value proposition is really important. So to me, I highly recommend to anybody that really they start thinking about insights from the beginning, diving deep into their fans, but also put the tools in place to track the value you're delivering to partners, because that's going to come in really handy, not only with renewal, but also when you're trying to upsell in that renewal period.
Absolutely. Simon, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm a firm believer that data will define all future partnerships and will be the measure, and certainly will be the currency, I would say, by which all deals are agreed and measured. I think at the moment, rights holders don't have all the means at their disposal to harvest that data. So I think what you're seeing is a transformational shift in rights holders looking to own that data. And you're seeing that amongst a lot of the top clubs, talent across the boards, institutions as well. The clever rights holder will know the percentage of fans that have a propensity to buy a latte in the morning, will know which person in the family is the decision maker in buying that TV amongst their fan base, and which airline the fan will travel for Christmas break. And that's going to be the key, I think, to going forward. So data is vital. However, I will say that always human relationships are genuinely important. So deals are still done by great people with nous and spirit and ingenuity, and so if you can marry a combination of the both, I think you've got a beautiful marriage.
Totally agree. You're absolutely right. It is a people's business. Sport is all about people, but data can provide you with a lot of information that you wouldn't know otherwise. I mean, certainly we're able to sort of understand and heat map over a brand and the actual rights holder. And in some cases, quite interestingly, you see competitors' brands existing in a stronger position than the brand that's come in, but at least you can measure now and you can understand what's happening ongoing. Over to you, Charlie, in terms of your view on data.
100% agree that data is huge at the moment. We're trying to grow, especially Harry's brand in other parts of the world, America especially. And because we get to know the data, what states he's not big in, what ones he is big in, what age group he appeals to, what sex he appeals to, or what race he doesn't appeal to, all that type of stuff. It allows us to manage him better in that way, promote him, come up with ideas to promote him in other avenues that we wouldn't necessarily think of. It just gives us a much better understanding of how we can help our client as much as we can. Without that knowledge, we might have gone through his whole career not hitting a certain aspect of what we can hit now. So now data is huge, but I do agree with Simon that human relationships is still number one for me, I think.
Absolutely. And Danny?
Yeah, I think for us, the absolute nail on the head there, Simon, in terms of the human relations. But I think the main thing is with data is understanding the why, which I think Heidi may have mentioned at the top of it, is why do we need the data? What is it that we're trying to understand? So what are those KPIs? What are those objectives? What can we achieve together? We've got two phrases at Leyton, which sound a bit of a cliche, but what gets measured gets managed. And one of our sort of catchphrases that we have is, how can we make more money together? Now, sometimes it's not about making the money, but it's how can we, whatever that objective is, how can we do it together? And it's where brand holders may in the past have been blinded with data. Now they can be presented that in a condensed, precise format. And there's no hiding. In the past, you would have just put up an ad board and said, yeah, there was a few viewers on TV. It's now, thankfully, so much more sophisticated, and the cleverer brands, and more importantly, the cleverer right holders will succeed. And those that just dwindle behind and just put up an ad board or an advert on the front of a shirt will very soon not have a partnership, not have a relationship. They'll have a one-year deal, and that will be it.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it really isn't about media value these days, as it was perhaps in the past, where it was just about that big headline number and what would it cost if it was a TV advert. It's much more than that. Sponsorships moved on incredibly since that, in terms of the skill sets of within the sponsorship industry, and objectives can even be invisible, I guess. The fact that you take the Huddersfield Town sponsorship by Paddy Power, taking the logo off the shirt, try and measure that using logo technology. There's not a lot there to see.
Right.
Things have moved. But whilst you're in the seat, Danny, how do you see the future of sports sponsorship developing?
Yeah, I think the world of sports sponsorship is completely changed now in 6 months, as it has with every single industry. If you're not reporting a decent return on investment over that agreed period of time, I say that deal is going to be very, very short. It's now about collaborations. It's about not just linking up with a brand because we need the money to fill that sponsorship gap. It's about linking up with a brand that is relative to the audience, relative to the values that you've got as a club, and that's where the Harry Kane. And I can't applaud the man enough, and Charlie and his team as well, for facilitating it and enabling that. But it's through joint collaboration and doing things that just feel right. The fit is right. It becomes synonymous with it, and it's something that has got to be looked at by every single brand holder. And moving forward, those key words will become even more prevalent.
Absolutely, Simon, your views?
Yeah. I've always felt this way, having worked clearly amongst some major sort of talent brands. But, I think in the short and medium term, we are going to see a clear push towards, and we already are, towards emotional marketing and purpose. If you're going to drive and understand a loyal fan base and audience that engages directly, you have to build a genuine connection, I believe, that understands the beliefs of your tribe, right? And tribes is what it's about. You need to understand the various different tribes that would follow that particular rights holder. So I think you'll see more marketing campaigns co-created by brands, rights holders, athletes, that will be underpinned by purpose. Creativity, I think, will come central and crucial to sponsorship as well. It's moving away from static. It needs to be much more evolved in how you approach it. I think the more successful agencies will marry the best data analytics sales team and also creative teams to elevate the rights holders, I would say. So, from my perspectives, I think what rights holders now need to understand, and what I believe they're starting to appreciate, is they're publishers, right? So they have to create and develop content, understand that audience, own the means of communication to that audience. The rules have changed, and the age of the dinosaurs is gone.
Nice shout. And over to you, Heidi, for your views.
Yeah, no, I agree a lot with what Danny and Simon said. I think there's a couple of things that have been highlighted through the pandemic. The first thing is that for many years, we were all very focused on selling to the brand partners what was going on in stadiums. And now throughout the pandemic that we're playing with our fans, we've had this emphasis outside of the stadium. But the reality of it is that probably that should have been the emphasis for a very long time, because when you look at numbers, what do you have? You have 60,000 people, maybe 70,000 people in stadium, and millions of people watching at home. So I think we're going to see more innovation in that area. to continue to say, how do we engage with those individuals? And then the other thing is, I really do believe a lot of what Simon said, but it's going to be led by that co-creation. There is this notion of, civil engagement. People want more. You've seen that here in the United States with the players getting involved with some of these macro political issues that are engulfing the country. So I think you're going to see that level of expectation, and brands have the pockets and the storyteller telling ability to really be active participants in that. And that's where a lot of things are going to come in, really quickly. One of our partners, Scotiabank, that's how the key element of our partnership is through co-creation. They told us what mattered a lot to them, which was community and development. Those are core principles as a confederation to develop football. So what we did, we worked with them to create a U13 club tournament. That's something that had never been done before. And we felt that that was something that met all of their criteria, but also met a lot of the things that we're trying to do with our mission as a confederation. So I think that's what you're going to see a lot more, is that co-creation and really taking a look back. You saw that now with the NBA and Microsoft, and I think you're going to see a lot more of that moving forward.
Yeah, great shout. We have got an interesting question now to sort of reach back into each of our own sponsorship lives. And I'm going to kick off first myself. The question is, what's the most exciting sponsorship I've been involved in? And my answer to that is the Carling Premiership. It was an interesting sponsorship because it came at a time when hardly any sponsor wanted to touch football. I mean, back in the 70s and 80s, as you're probably aware, in the UK, football was a game that if you wanted to go to watch it live, you had to be pretty brave. No doubt about it. It was a rough time in a football match. Hooliganism was rife. So to actually sort of sponsor something like that was quite a jump. Having said that, there was a 1 year when the Premier League was not sponsored by anyone. And I think it really showed everyone what a great remake and rebrand to football in the UK the Premier League did. And it's just gone on from stride to stride. But being involved in it from Carling's perspective, whilst yes, it's an alcohol brand, and I appreciate that, we have to consider, how alcohol and certain subjects are involved in sponsorship. But the pub in the UK is effectively, going back to what's already been said, particularly in Charlie and Danny's comments regarding Leyton Orient, it's about the community. The pub is the cornerstone of the community in Britain. So to actually reach out into those cities, towns, villages, bars, and actually reach the local community, it was a fantastic opportunity for Carling to get involved in, particularly for the consumers themselves, because there's so much we can do. It give the brand a great halo, I think, in terms of what it showed, but also to the trade. We're able to sort of take the trade, the licensees, etc., the pub owners, all the way to different hospitality games, etc. We're pretty close to running up, so we're probably going to have to just ask each of you very quickly to give us your favourite sponsorship. Over to Heidi.
Yeah, very quickly. I mean, I think the best sponsorships are always the ones that didn't seem possible at the beginning, right? That you were fighting against the odds to make it happen. So for me, that was when I was at Wasserman, and Target came to us saying, we've been in NASCAR for 20 years and we want something to replace that kind of exposure and value for not only Target, but our partners and suppliers. So everybody looked at me, it's like, don't take this job. That is impossible to find a replacement. Yeah, I was working, and no, and that's when we put him into football and soccer with the MLS and a couple of other partnerships, but nobody thought it was feasible, and it's been a hugely successful partnership for Target.
We're getting pretty tight. So Simon, quickly.
Mine was one of the less known sponsorships I worked on when I was younger, which was Burton Menswear sponsorship of the England team.
Brilliant.
Smith had no right to be a suit maker of the England football team. You had to convince the players and the public it was a genuine partnership. But then we mined the history of Burton, and it suited the England 66 team. Had an incredible history within the game, and some of the creative executions from that, I think it became a sort of real partnership.
Thanks very much, Simon. And Charlie?
Yeah, no, the obvious answer is obviously the Leyton Orient deal just done.
And I think we'll have to go to Danny quickly.
In addition to the Harry Kane sponsorship, it's our Breyer Group Stadium with our stadium sponsor aligning community values alongside the values of the club, which are very much in sync.
That's great. Well, I think it's probably back to the studio, isn't it, Ben?